hello everybody, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Canuckleheads. We have joining us today a very special guest. We have Amanda Miller. How are you doing, Amanda?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We're chilling today. For the next hour or so, we're going to be picking your brain about some topics here, getting to know you a little bit better.
I don't have a lot of I'm a smooth brain, so there's probably not a ton to pick. I've got like 2 brain cells to rub together.
That's more than most of the people I interact with on a daily basis. So.
You know what? So I'm like doubly as smart.
Exactly. I think it's going to be a good one. Oh my goodness. So we were just chatting briefly. There's a lot about you that I guess people don't really know. So I'm happy to dive into that today, and just to let the folks at home know, we're just going to be strictly focusing on Amanda here. So anybody in the chat that has questions, please direct them at Amanda and not anything outside of that sphere of things, because as smart and talented and funny as Amanda is, she's only privy to the information that she has. So
I told Crumb, because I was like, on every live stream people want me to tell them stuff about stuff I don't know, and people on the internet are going to clip things, and I'm like, I don't know. I did not get involved in drama in high school. I did not get. I don't know nothing. I'm Jon Snow.
Yeah, they're gonna do the stuff that the internet does.
Right. They're gonna internet.
So, oh my goodness. So, Amanda, this is stuff that I didn't know, because like I'm terrible at following like voice actors and who does what and whatever else. But I'm guessing that you've been the voice actor for Sailor Jupiter for quite a long time, right?
Yeah, so I was not the one that you grew up with. So, because everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, you look good for your age." I'm like, "Thank you," but no, I grew up with that one too. I was born in '87.
Yes.
So although somebody today was like, "I didn't know you were 34. You look 25." I'm like, "Thank you. Stop it." But then I had an audition on camera for like a big butch trucker that's in her 30s. So I'm like, oh, I guess I can't keep up the illusion that I'm cute little like grad student. But yeah, so. What was the question? I completely just pew.
Well, I was just giving a little bit of a rundown of your history
Sailor
so
Jupiter.
far. Yeah.
Sailor Jupiter. Yes. So there's the 90s version, which was done by Deke, and then I think later Cloverway or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that was done in Canada. And then this one that we did was in 2014. It was kind of like the 20th anniversary, 25th anniversary. Mm-hmm. I can't do math. I'm an actor. I told you, 2 brain cells. Just make a little fire up there. They're working real hard. But yeah, so in 2014 they decided to do Sailor Moon Crystal, which was like the reboot, I guess, kind of like closer to the manga, like new animation, new everything, and then also re-release the classic version, because in the 90s that version was, it was the 90s, so there's certain topics we couldn't touch, we couldn't, we had kissing cousins and all that stuff.
Yes.
So so in 2014, that's the version I'm in. So I'm in the Viz Media version. So if you find the DVD at like the store, that's our version.
I do actually have that DVD set, which is pretty funny. So I have heard your talents, and I didn't even know it. So I wanted to say that I do appreciate your voice talents here. So
thank you.
You've been a voice actor for quite a little while now, like.
Yeah, since about like 2010, or like that's when I moved to LA and started trying to do it. I don't think it really picked up till, I mean, like I was doing like little things here and there. Mm-hmm. I think I did Fire Emblem and some Squid Girl and stuff in my first year or two, and then a bunch of little side characters and whatnot. And then 2014 was definitely, I think 2014 was also Danganronpa, the video game.
Oh yes, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Somebody can double check what year that was, but so that was definitely a really cool year for me. And then I started building from there, and
that's pretty exciting. That's pretty exciting. So you've done a lot of like video games and things like that as well. That people might recognize you from. But I guess recently your most recent claim to fame was being on Geeks and Gamers. I hear that you're going back on Friday Night Tights hopefully soon.
We'll see, something like that.
Hopefully soon.
I'm live streaming is freaking me out a little bit. I'm used to like podcasts or whatever, where it's like pre-recorded, and I can like, if there's anything I say, I'm like, hey, actually, maybe take that out in live streaming. It's like, nope, everybody sees every mistake you make, and they're gonna they're gonna call you on it. So
Absolutely. Well, nothing to worry about here. I'm not going to ask anything too hard or pressing for you.
the hard hitting questions where you're like, so what are your views on, I don't know,
What are your
are you
views on
pro-life or
global warming?
pro-choice, or something's like super controversial? Just tell me right now.
Oh my goodness. But there's a lot of people can look up your history and your voice acting and stuff like that. They could see all the stuff that you're in. But one thing that I found out just very recently, and again, folks, I want to give the audience some insight into Amanda here, was that you've had a hockey career.
I mean, like, not a career, but I got into hockey. My friend, of all places, I was living in Florida, and it was in middle school, and I was in Tampa, and my friend Luce, she just loved hockey, and she would be like, "Hey, get up against the garage and stop my pucks." And so I had like she would, like literally like hit. Well, I guess it wasn't a puck; it was a ball, but she would hit a ball at me against the garage. And so eventually, I would like tape like newspapers to my shins so I could like do whatever. And I had like a kitchen mitt, and I kind of and then eventually I got better at it. So it's kind of like forced into the position of a goalie. I was very much like Goldberged
That's
in was it
amazing.
Mighty Ducks, really like time into the net. But I actually really liked it. And so I liked the Tampa Bay Lightning before they were cool. They were the worst in the league back then, but it was like the little team that could. And then after I left Florida and stopped watching as much hockey, that's when they won the Stanley Cup.
Of course, of course. So
But
you grew up in Florida? So you were.
I was an Air Force kid, so I kinda grew up all over, but I lived in Germany and then Florida, and then boringly, we moved back to Germany, but a different part of Germany, so to me, it was still a move, but it sounds like it's only been, two different places, and then we moved back to Florida, but it was another part of Florida on the other side, and we moved to Maryland, and then after college, I moved to California on my own, and now I'm in Georgia.
Well, that's exciting, and I'm also very disappointed that you're a Tampa Bay Lightning fan because you guys just kicked our ass. The Toronto Maple
Listen,
Leafs just
I
got
I
blown
I
out.
I liked, wait, so you're a Maple
I am a
Leafs.
Maple Leafs fan, unfortunately.
Interesting. So wait, so where does the Canucklehead name came from? Because I was like, oh, okay, anime hockey, I'm in.
Yeah,
Are you not a Canucks fan?
I can appreciate the Canucks. Like I grew
Okay,
up in the hockey era when Pavel Bure was a household name, of course. But
okay.
I mean, I was a fan of the Doug Gilmour Maple Leafs at the time we made that run, and got heartbroken by Gretzky and the Kings.
Yeah, LA, the hockey is wasted on LA because I remember when I was there, I think the Kings won the Stanley Cup when I was there, and people were like, "Oh yeah, now I'm wearing a Kings jersey." Like that's like nobody actually like went to the games or care. I mean, that's not true. People did go to the games. It was just funny that like LA is not a sports town, and yet they have two football teams and a hockey team and all that stuff, and
Right? I mean, a
people are just like,
fun fact: I was actually in Los Angeles for a television show on the night that Los Angeles won the Stanley Cup, and it was the quietest night I have ever heard in my life.
there's there's like one guy like woo, and he's like a transplant from Canada who lives in LA because he wants to be a screenwriter and he's failed miserably.
Oh my goodness!
Um, but I was a Canucks fan for a bit because again, 7th grade, so I was boy crazy. Dan Cloutier was our goalie, and I don't even remember if he was good. I just remember he was hot, and I remember being like, "I'm gonna marry him." And then they traded him to the Canucks, and I was like, how am I gonna meet him now?
Oh no!
Oh, in Canada. My 7th grade dream is ruined. And then I think he got engaged, and then I was ugh.
Then you were forever
Anyway.
sad. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness!
I'm the shell of the woman I once was. I like that I was a woman in 7th grade.
We have a super chat from Dark Strange Nico 17 says, "Hello Amanda, love your work from Dragon Rampa before discovering you in other works. Love Toko and Junko. Thank you for the lovely response from for my print of Boruto from Streamily 2 years ago."
Oh, wow. Everybody has good memories. Well, thank you. Thanks for stopping by and for appreciating Danganronpa.
It
I mean, I
sounds
guess now it's popular.
it sounds like
Back then it was.
your work has really stuck with people. Like, how does that, like, knowing that people like really look to you and almost like idolize some of the stuff that you do, like your characters, the roles that you've played, how does that make you feel?
It's a little weird because I like am only recently like accepting that I'm a person, if that makes any sense. Like, I used to be like when, you know, as a kid, I was like, "I'm gonna be an actor," but I was gonna I performed for my parents, but I was like, "Turn around and don't look at me." And, like, they're like, "How are you gonna be an actor if people don't see you?" And I was like, "Joke's on you." Although now, you know, like, started doing theater in, like, middle school and high school, so I got more comfortable being seen, but even then, there's
Mm.
this weird thing of, like, "Oh, I'm my characters," but Amanda's this nebulous thing that no one can know, and so doing these live streams is it's fun, but it's a little bit terrifying too because it's like, "Oh, I'm trying to be more of my authentic self," but also when you're more yourself, you're showing more of the good parts and more of the true and honest things, but you're also showing stuff where you're like, "Ooh, that's not how I want to say that. Well, that's gonna go on the internet forever." So it's it's a little like walking a tightrope, but it's fun. I don't know
Absolutely.
why I went on a tangent, sorry.
No, it's totally perfect. You're perfectly okay. You're doing much better than most people. So
It's those 2 brain cells. The extra one helps. Kinda gives you that boost.
so you've mentioned on your site and stuff that you're a comedian. You're into comedy. Do you do stand
Mm.
up?
So I did once, and then I was so good at it, I'm like, "I have the recording, I'm good." No, I think I did it a couple times, but it's fun.
Hmm.
Um, I probably should do it again, but I also hmm, I feel like my comedy has changed as my, like, worldviews have changed. So now I'm like, I don't know if people in my city would want to see my style of comedy anymore, because a lot of my stuff is just making fun of hypocrisy or making fun of authoritarians, making fun of cancel culture and all that stuff. Like, who are you to tell people? You know, I don't know. I just and I feel like that would probably not go over well. Even in Atlanta, there's a lot of people who I think they would throw tomatoes at me. Uh,
Well, I honestly do think that there is a market out there though for that type of comedy. I think when we look back at comedians, at the big comedians, right, like the George
sure.
Carlins of the world,
Oh yeah,
like they just did not give a damn like what people thought, and they spoke the truth. Like they lampooned the world. It-
that's their job. Like that's what I think you're starting to see more of that. I think comedians are finally realizing like they can't look. There's a difference between trying to be respectful of people and being like a comedian. Like people are like, "Oh, I can't make any joke that disrespect." It's like, bro, like there is truth to a lot of things. And obviously, you know, try not to punch down, but it's still just like comedians are supposed to speak truth to power. They were supposed to be the court jester back in the medieval days. They were supposed to be the only person who could tell the king like it was and the person who could make fun of the king and their policies to their face. You know, and if you're, you know, I have a sketch about that where it's like they're like, oh yeah, you can't say any of that stuff. Like, and so the jester's just out there being like, well, white guys are just the worst, huh? Always talking about Bitcoin and thinking they're people? What's up with that, you know? Because I just feel like I don't know. I don't know. I have a lot of opinions about, you know, free speech and all that. Because like, I just miss days where we could, like, laugh at everyone and, you know, like, I grew up on, like, South Park and Chappelle's Show and, like,
oh,
you know,
Dave
Monty
Chappelle,
Python.
absolutely.
Kids in the Hall. Chappelle is like a philosopher kind of, you know, where it's like I mean, maybe that's a little dramatic, but like comedians tend to be people who have been through the ringer and they've seen the highs, they've seen the lows. Usually we have a lot of like depression or addiction issues or whatever. So it's like having been at the bottom, it's like you have a wider expanse for like I don't know, you feel all of the human experience, so we're able to comment on it, and you can't do that if you have to be like, "Well, you can comment on it, but not that part, and you can't comment on that part, and we can't do any of this, and you have to keep it here where nobody gets offended." It's like, "Bro, I've seen people get offended by the stupidest shit. If you're gonna go by what people are gonna be offended by, you can't say anything."
Oh, no kidding. I mean, like I've worked in customer service. I know that firsthand.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, "Oh," like, even that's the worst part too, because like, in customer service, I did not last long. I worked at, like, Chick-fil-A back in college for, like, 2 months. I didn't& last long, but I worked at Barnes& and Noble at the cafe for 2 months. It's not Starbucks, by the way. Everybody thinks it is because 'cause they'll use their big logo to get you in, and then we have to deal with people being mad at us because it's not actually a Starbucks. We can't take Starbucks cards because 'cause we're just Barnes& and Noble. Anyway, but, like, I did not last well in customer service because I would always be like, "Well, that's not the truth, though." You know, like, they'd be like, "I didn't order this." I'm like, "Yeah, you did." And they're like, "No, I didn't." I'm like, "Yeah, no, you did." And then everybody's like, like, you know, the customer's always right." And I'm like, "No, you're not." Like especially at Chick-fil-A, you'll have a lot of people who came in and they'd order a bunch of food and then you'd give it to them and they'd say, "Oh, that's wrong." because they know that the manager will be like, just give them the thing and also give them the new thing they ordered.
Yeah. And isn't that what the world is kind of getting pushed into right now? Kind of feels like.
Just cater and yeah, catering to emotionally immature people and people who don't know how to manage their own stuff, and it's just I don't know. I've been doing a lot of therapy over the past 10 years, so for me, I'm very much like, I want to see less of this, "You're responsible for my feelings" kinda stuff, and
Yeah.
more, "I'm responsible for my feelings." Now, if you're an asshole and you hurt my feelings, I'm not gonna fuck with you anymore. Sorry, what's your rating? I'm sure you're probably not, like,
No,
family
we're
friendly.
good. You can swear.
Okay, okay. I was, like, just dropping bombs, and you're like, "Oh, actually, this is a family show." Um, but yeah, for me, I'm just like, again, freedom of speech, but also freedom of association. I can go, "Hey, you're a dick. I'm not gonna fuck with you anymore." But ultimately, it's up to me whether I let you make me feel bad about myself. I don't have
Absolutely.
to believe what you say. Like, you could say, "Hey, you're a bad person," or "You're" I don't know, whatever people are probably gonna say now. They're gonna be like, "You're an alt-right piece of shit." It's like, "Well, I know I'm not that, so, why would I let that affect me?" You know?
Exactly. We also have a super chat from Dean Domino 25 says, looking forward to seeing you on Friday Night Tights, Amanda. Since you're doing comedy, you might want to try reaching out to Chrissy Mayer, since she
Yeah.
hangs out with the Friday Night Tights crew and does comedy tours.
I kinda wanna just meet everybody, like, everybody seems really cool, like, I mean, Jeremy and Ryan are hilarious, Ripa is somebody I've been watching for a while, like, he kinda introduced me to kind of, like kind of, like, libertarian philosophy of just, like, leave people the fuck alone, how about that?
Exactly.
I was on a stream yesterday where I was making a joke about, like, my politics are, "Get off my dick." Um, and my friend was like, "You need to make that a shirt." So I was like, "Alright."
That actually would be an amazing shirt. Not gonna lie.
'Cause it's just like for me, I'm like, "Yo, I've seen authoritarianism go like, the right used to do it, then the left did, and the right like, I see it go back and forth, and so, like, there's things that I agree with on different sides, but ultimately, whoever's being the control freak at that point and telling other people how to live their lives and what they can't like, I'm gonna be against whatever that is. So, get off my dick is my politics. But,
Absolutely. That's a great
but yeah,
policy.
I think so. It kinda covers it, but yeah, Chrissy's hilarious, and, like, her frosk, of course, was incredible, and I'm very I'm nervous, though, because I'm like, I've never even on, like, Geeks and Gamers, I'm like, I've never been in front of that many people live before, so I'm just like, "Okay, yeah, 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 just try not to sound like a fucking moron." Just try. My 2 brain cells are trying their hardest. They're like, "We're trying. It's hard."
Well, I gotta say that you're doing fairly well, even through all the nerves and everything else. you're,
Thank you.
you're doing great. We have another super chat from Dean Domino 25. Thank you, Dean. I do think comedy is in part speaking truth to power, but it's more than that. I think ultimately it's about pushing boundaries to expand the
Mhm.
conversation, the Overton window, even if it can come across as mean or cruel at times.
I think that's a great point because like, that's kind of every time I put out a sketch, I'm like it's funny because in my head, they're, like, edgy, but I think just because I've been in, like, actor spaces that are much more, like, very, like, "You can't say that, you can't say that, you can't do that." So then I'm like, "Oh, no, am I a bad person?" But then I have friends on both sides who are like, "No, this is funny," and normal people would see the nuance in it. So I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm not as edgy as I thought." I have one coming out, though, that I'm like, "Mhm, okay." And it's definitely pushing a boundary, but it's pushing it in a way that I'm hoping will kind of start the conversation of like, I was just talking to a friend today about this. When everything when we put these labels on people, we go, "Oh, you're a racist, transphobe," whatever. Sorry, I don't wanna get you demonetized. I don't know
No
what words
worries.
you can say.
I get
Um,
demonetized just by being me, so it's all good.
okay, great. Honestly, and so I'm not monetized yet, and even when I do get monetized, I believe I think I'm banned from Google AdSense.
We got to work on that. We got to get you
So
monetized.
well, the thing is, I think even when I get monetized, I think because it's linked to your Google I think that's a lifetime ban, so I might not ever be able to monetize, but that kinda gives me a freedom of like, "Oh, well, then in that case, I can kinda say what I want, and I don't have to worry about, like, censoring stuff or" but, all that to say, I feel like we're using these labels to other people, and we say, "Oh, well, you're a racist, you're an alt-right transphobe, you're a pedo, you're a groomer," and there's some truth to it. Sometimes some people are being, groomers, or some people are being racist or whatever, but, like, when you throw it around so much, it's this boy cries wolf thing,
Yes.
and now, like, I literally don't know what's the truth anymore. So now when somebody says, don't talk to them, they're alt-right," I'm like, "Yeah, who's not alt-right nowadays?" Or, "Don't talk to them, they're, crazy socialist." I'm like, "Yeah, well," And then sometimes things slip through the cracks and somebody actually is crazy, but I didn't believe it because we're using these words. So anyway, all that to say, the sketch that I'm going to do, I showed a preview of it on the last main event on Tuesday, but I had a clan hood in my back because I made it for a sketch. I was like, oh my god, Ryan, look, it's from our meeting. But the joke is that like I'm like in the sketch, I'm outside being like, hey, racists, like I got called a white supremacist on the internet. I want to join racist club. I'm like you now, and they're like, get the fuck out of here, you know. And then they're inside just being like, man, everybody wants to get in our club now. Like I hate racist club now. They've made racism more inclusive, and now I wanted to be part of an exclusive club that shared my passion for my like-minded passion for eugenics and tiki torches, and kind of making jokes about the fact that there are still racists out there. There are still bad people out there who actually hate people. There are
Absolutely.
still people who are transphobes. There are still people who would wish harm on somebody else. Reserve those labels for like who it actually applies to, and let's come up with other words for people that you just don't like or disagree with.
I completely agree. I mean, we see it all the time, and it's usually the loudest people that are signaling for this type of stuff that are guilty of this type of thing.
And it's something that's a little bit of a white pill for me is see, and I know I've mentioned this before probably on other streams, but I just feel like it's worth repeating. Sometimes when we're terminally online, we think that everybody online is reflective of like the whole country or like how most people think. But like you said, it's the loudest people on both sides screaming at each other. And we go, oh, well, that's what the right thinks. Well, that's what the left thinks. But they say most people are like moderate or independent and like, or they're on those sides, but they have friends on other sides. And like, we're able to still kind of be like, yeah, I don't agree with you, but I like you. And it's like, I think it was like 80% of Americans don't even have a Twitter. And only,
Yeah.
so it's like 20% have a Twitter, and then 80% of tweets are made by 10% of all people.
Yep.
So really, it's like 2% of the population right now screaming at each other and making themselves seem bigger and more populous. I don't know the right word. Like there's more of them than there actually are. So just rest assured, most people are kind of just like, I just want to live my life and have fun. Like life's, as my mom always said, life sucks and then you die. So.
And the world is slowly waking up to that realization, I'm finding. I know
Yeah.
that there was a convention recently that was under some fire for who they were inviting, and they had a very, very good response to it. They said, like everyone has their opinion, they're entitled to their opinion, they can have it, but we're also entitled to how we handle that opinion and how we respond to that.
I think I know. Was this a con in Orlando?
I believe so.
I believe I'll be going next month. So, not like as a guest, actually as a guest. I mean, like as a attendee.
Yeah,
But yeah, like for me, I'm like, look, if somebody did something illegal, like Roman Polanski or whatever, like they should be in jail.
absolutely.
If they have an opinion you don't like, or politics that you hate, or tweeted something, whatever, like then, like I said, don't fuck with them. But like I don't really get the need to say, and nobody else can fuck with them either. And also they're not allowed to ever make money again. Because to me, that's kind of the, I don't know. To me, it's the closest you can get to killing somebody. Kind of, I mean, that sounds dramatic, but like, they know that they can't physically hurt you. So then they're going to do the next best thing, which is make sure that you can't feed yourself. And I mean,
And your
again,
family and provide
and,
for.
and there's plenty of people that I think are pieces of shit. But I also am like, but I still don't think they should be canceled.
Yeah.
I'll be, like I just kind of, but maybe that's how I am. Like I said, get off my dick. So I'm just kind of like, you did not do anything to me personally, and I don't think you're a good person or whatever. Or I maybe I'm like, I'm not sure about you, but at the same time, I'm not going to tell you. Who am I to say like you can't? I don't know. I just am about freedom, babe. Like just
And
freedom.
I love combating this type of nonsense with comedy, right? Because like if these people didn't exist, then what would we write jokes about? Honestly,
Exactly, it's kinda helpful because, like, and I think I'm making a little bit of a shift because in the beginning, my comedy, a lot of the sketches I had were a lot more biting and were a lot more like, "Fuck these people," but I'm also like, these people are not actually the majority, they just seem like the majority, so
hmm
ultimately, I'm making comedy about, I think they said 8% of people identify as, like, the super, I don't know, super woke, progressive, whatever thing,
hmm
and I'm differentiating that because people are gonna be like, "Oh, she doesn't like diversity." That's not what I'm fucking saying. To me, woke does not mean diversity. It's this kind of like militant religious view of things where people of all groups are like, all Black people want this thing and they've all gone through this experience. All gay people feel this way. And if you don't feel that way, then you're self-hating. Like it's kind of puts people in boxes more. And
Exactly.
so for me, like I want diversity. I want everybody to feel included, but I don't want us to be like these hive minds where we just go, oh, well, the Black community wants this, the trans community wants this, every community, like, but I'm also somebody who's never really been in a community. Like I was an Air Force kid. I moved around a lot. I never really had like a place that I called home or people that I called my people. So I think and being like mixed race, like I've always kind of been in between groups. That's why I call it daywalker, because I've always kind of moved between worlds, never quite fully fit into any. And I realized recently, I always thought I wanted a tribe. Why don't I belong? And I realized if I wanted to belong, I would have. But
Exactly.
it's not my natural state of being, because I feel like when you're in a tribe, you have to adhere to the values of that tribe and the way that tribe thinks. And I'll be in that tribe for a little bit, but then they get a little too extreme, and then I start having a nuanced opinion, being like, "Hey, actually, like I could kind of see the other side's point," and then they go, "Get out," and I'm like, or they'll gatekeep and say, "You're not a real, fill in the blank." And so I just feel like for me, I would rather not associate with a tribe and just be like, "Hey, I hang out with different kinds of people. I don't agree with all of them. I hope they don't agree with me because we're not the same fucking person. Like, let's be
Exactly.
individuals." That's my like thing. So not all Black people think the same, not all women think the same, and I want to hear a diversity of opinions. To me, that's actually diversity. Soapbox, sorry. I go off on these like to these tangents, but I
Oh,
just think
I,
it's
I love it.
important for
It's great. I think that's why I gravitate towards you so much, honestly, because it's not because it's like, oh my goodness, Amanda confirms and affirms everything that I believe in. It's because like you're speaking the truth about this stuff. Like this is something that I find as well. Like I don't fit into groups. Like I all throughout high school I bounced between groups of people, and that extends to life now as well. Like I bounce between political opinions and things like that. Sometimes I'm on one side of the aisle, sometimes on the other. But it's very much like we've gotten into a place now in the world, and we even saw it culminate at the Oscars with Chris Rock and Will Smith, where like you're not allowed to have an opinion that is not in lockstep.
Yeah, and there's such bad faith, just bad faith views of things where we see somebody make a edgy joke, which like the G.I. Jane joke wasn't even that edgy. Even
No.
Chris Rock was like, "Dude, it was a G.I. Jane joke." Like, really? You're gonna get upset about that? Like,
Oh, that was hilarious.
yeah, and like I made a sketch about that one, and there was a part of it where I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get in trouble for this part." But then I kind of made you can check it out. It's on my channel. It's called the reactions to the slappening or whatever. But like the at one point I was playing Jada, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble because I made it put like a bald thing on. Anyway, um,
Canceled.
but like, yeah, and I don't know. That's been interesting because for a long time I was a big people pleaser and was very much like, I have to toe the line. I have to do whatever, the crowd wants because otherwise, I'll be canceled. And to me, I used to interpret other people having an opinion about me was always true because
Hmm.
I didn't really have a strong sense of self. So I'm like, oh, if you think I'm a bad person, then maybe what I said was bad. And it's like now I'm kind of coming to a place where I'm coming into myself at 34, but hey, we all eventually figure it out. But like realizing people can have different opinions and people can think what they want about me, and it doesn't make it true. And I'm sure you probably deal with that a bit too. Of just like I don't know. The internet is it's a hard place for nuance because people can reading stuff. You don't see the context, especially you don't see sarcasm. I'm a very sarcastic person.
Yes. Same.
I, I don't know if it's still there. I had something where like back when Sailor Jupiter was first announced, they said something like, what was it? Or they were like, "Oh, what's your Sailor Jupiter gonna sound like?" And I put out a clip of like Harvey Firestein doing an interview, and Harvey Firestein's got that. If anybody doesn't know, he was like a big Broadway guy. He was in Miss Doubtfire as like the brother, I think, and he's got that voice, and he's very much like like how Tracy hold mommy's waffles, and like thought I was clearly joking, but it ended up on my Wikipedia page, and I think somebody said it was on Anime News Network too, where they were like,
Oh my goodness.
Amanda says she was inspired by Harvey Firestein for her performance of Sailor Jupiter. I'm like, wow, okay. Because I give things a very deadpan too, so sometimes people are like, "Oh yeah, she does have bodies in her trunk." I'm like, Yes." Yeah, 'cause I said it with this face. I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Like, I get it. Like, it's so funny because we're the same age. We grew up with the same stuff. We you know, like I was a huge fan of Monty Python growing up. Like big
Yeah,
fan. That's what crafted my comedy and my taste in comedy. So like that dry, sarcastic humor and that wit. And I that's one thing I've noticed. Speaking about younger folks, people's in their like early 20s, they don't really get that. They don't, because it wasn't really a thing for them, and so like that
yeah.
dry sarcasm and it's over their head nowadays.
I mean, I see some that are pretty I don't know, like, I don't know if they don't get it or they just don't wanna get it, but, like, yeah, like, Monty Python was a big inspiration for me because I love the British, like, the kind of straight-faced, deadpan delivery of, like, the face is saying nothing's going on, nothing's abnormal, but the words you're saying are absurd, and like
Yes.
that I love playing with those contradictions, so in a lot of my comedy, I try to keep it, like, deadpan and very like I don't like comedy that, like, indicates stuff as much, so, like, I really want the characters to be, like, acting where it's like, "No, this character believes what they're saying," because that's funnier to me if they're saying ridiculous shit. One of my favorite improv exercises, I think was called mapping or something. Well, I have 2, but, one of my favorites was, you would do the scene once, you'd improvise a scene, and it was always like they would give you a really serious, like, not funny, subject matter, like, "Okay, you have to tell your husband that you miscarried," or something like that, where it's like you were acting and it was very, like, dramatic improv scene, and then you would do the same scene again, holding on to that same emotion, same delivery, but now you're telling him that you accidentally recorded over, the football game with, like, RuPaul's Drag Race or something. And it's so fucking funny because they're not indicating. They're not like, "Honey, I recorded over whatever." Like, they're like almost crying. It's just like, "I'm so sorry. I recorded over," like, it's like, that's funny to me. Like, the like, people just, doing it so straight. My other favorite exercise, I'm considering doing some stuff for my channel, so let me know if you think that sounds interesting or not.
Yeah.
I wanna do, like, movie reviews or something that's just, like, fun. Like, I'm so sick of politics right now, but, like, I was thinking of, like, watching, like, bad movies and reviewing them, but I feel like a lot of people do that, so it'd be kind of fun to do something where it's like, there's a game in improv, I think it's called, like, Professor Bullshit or Captain Bullshit, and basically, you get up on stage and they'll give you a prompt and say, "Alright, Professor Bullshit, tell us about the reproductive cycle of seagulls," and you have to just be like, "Yes, and so you're just like, "Ah, yes, I love this topic. I did my thesis on it," and then you just have to bullshit and do it confidently, and so I thought it'd be kind of funny to do movie reviews of a movie that I either, like, haven't seen or maybe I've watched it, but I've watched it in Japanese or something where, I changed the language track, so I don't actually know what's going on, but I'm explaining to you like it's my favorite movie.
That
And I
sounds
thought
amazing.
that could be kind of fun, but I also don't know how I'd get around, like, copyright stuff, like, if you can only I don't know, but then again, if I'm not monetized, who cares?
Exactly. Well, the thing is, it would likely fall under fair use because you're adding commentary and things like
Hmm.
that. But you're not if you're
Even
not
with, like,
worried about monetization, then it probably wouldn't affect you that much.
they're not gonna, like, take it down, are they? Because I don't actually fully know how that works. Like, if
That
are they only taking down videos that are, like, offensive or reported or
that
something?
usually depends on who it is, right? Because like I've made parody songs and things like that on my channel, and all
Mhm.
they do is just take your revenue. So like even if you're not monetized, they'll just stick ads on your video and they'll take the money from it. Most of the
Mhm.
time, when you're dealing with DMCA, you're dealing with like weirdos that have this really bizarre ego about whatever the video is, and like that's strictly for like when you're taking a video, or if you're going to HBO and recording a show and putting that straight onto YouTube without doing anything to it. Like
Okay.
HBO's big one that strikes down things, as far as I understand. But there's a lot of other like weirdo content creators out there that are very, very protective about their stuff that would do that. If you're dealing with like movies and things like that, if you're doing a clip here or there, or if you're using it like clearly fair use, you should be okay. But again, I'm
Mhm.
not a lawyer. You should always disclaimer. You should always consult lawyers when you're discussing that stuff. But luckily, we know a few in the YouTube community that might be able to point you in the right direction for that. So
Cool. Well, I appreciate that.
yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just like, I want to do, sketches are fun, but I want to supplement it with other comedy stuff. And I was thinking about doing like commentary videos, but I'm like, I don't know how to make commentary that's always funny, considering that the world we live in right now is just such a clown world that it can be funny, but it's also just kind of like sad, and so and also I don't want to marinate in it. I'm kind of tired of like outrage culture. I kind of want to just be like, screw the people I don't like. I just want to focus on the things that make me laugh.
And I think that's what we need more of, honestly. I think it's a great idea. Number one, I
Thank
think
you.
it's a fantastic idea. I think you should do it 100%. Um, I'll definitely point you in the direction of a couple people that are very well established on YouTube that could give you some good direction. I know the
Pointers?
Friday Night Tights crew would be good for that too, but
Okay.
um, I can at least point you in the direction of a couple that I know that might be able to help out with that too. But no, I think we need more positivity. I think we need more laughter and just, getting back to just being able to laugh at ourselves and laugh at absurdities and things like that. Like Life of Brian type of comedy, right?
Yes. Always look on the bright side. I think that's probably why we have fucked up senses of humor, because like that's what I was raised on. Like, but like and it's oh fuck filters, whatever. I was at a treatment center a couple years ago, and it was for like trauma, and it's funny because somebody was going around cutting people's brake lines.
Oh
So
my
we had these
gosh.
we had these bikes to get around campus because it was a big campus, and somebody was going around cutting people's brake lines, and that was really funny to me, like, because 'cause I'm just like, I'm riding my bike, and I'm, like, thinking, like, I didn't check. What if my bike's the bike? And I was just laughing so hard because it's just like, some of the people here have been through unspeakable things, and it's just like, they're, like, shell shocked, and they come here, and they're like, "I'm safe. Okay, yeah, I'm safe now." You know what? I had a good session with my therapist. I'm making progress. Today's gonna be the first day of the rest of my life. And I don't think anybody actually did, like, break every bone in their body, but I'm just imagining, like, the juxtaposition of them being like, "Okay, I'm letting my guard down, and I'm safe," and then breaking every bone in their body. So it's like, obviously, I'm not laughing at trauma, but I'm laughing at, like, the juxtaposition and, like, the nihilism of how sometimes life is just like
It's just the absurdity behind it. It's like, today's the day I'm going to take the big hill home.
Yeah. So, like, obviously, like, and you kinda feel it out, like, and be like, "Okay, maybe I'm not gonna laugh at that person's stuff," but, like, me and my friends, we make jokes about pretty much everything because we understand. I think also it helps when you know the person's boundaries, and
Yes.
you're like, "Okay, that was a little too far. Are you okay?" But, like, for the most part, oh, yeah, we just, like, go at it because to me, laughing at trauma is the best way. I mean, obviously, go to therapy, get help for it, but also, like, it can't own you. Trauma
Exactly.
or people can't own you, if you just make a joke about it. That's how I didn't really get bullied in high school. People would
Yeah.
try, and then I would just joke. I'd, like, yes and them. Um, yeah, they're like, "You're this and that," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not yeah, I know I'm the fucking worst, right? Ugh. Fucking kill me." And they're just like, "I don't."
They have no response to that. I mean, like, it's something I always say, because I've been through my fair share of shit in the short time I've been on this planet. I've been through my fair share of stuff, but I always say it's like what happens to us, what's inflicted to you, is not your fault. Like
Mm.
how you choose to handle that, and how you choose to respond to that, it's what's defining you.
That's the 100%. Have you done therapy too? Because that's like therapy. But yeah, I don't mean to pry too much, but yeah, like that's what I wanna remind people, like, because we do live in this culture where it is like it's almost like a status to be, like, "I'm oppressed, I'm marginalized," and like, yes, bad shit might have happened to you, and I'm very sorry that happened, but at the same time, don't let that be part of your identity, because to
Exactly.
me, that's literally letting them win. Like, if somebody, caused you racial trauma or sexual trauma or anything else like that, that was not your fault. So don't own that. You are not I don't know, to me, just saying like, "Oh, I'm a victim," is like, because I don't wanna own what was done to me. That was their decision. Why would I define myself by the worst thing somebody else chose to do to me? Um,
Exactly.
so I just, but I'm not saying, like, don't care about what happened to you. Like, obviously, grieve that, like, but don't let it consume you because then they win. And you have to be like, that was their decision. That person's a fucked up person. This is not a part of who I am. I am somebody who loves, I don't know, video games or comedy or whatever. Like, I am so many more things than I was not just a force to be acted upon. Again,
Exactly.
another soapbox, but I just have a lot of passion about this. I want people to get to a place where they're mentally healthy, and I think we're right now as a society, we've embraced something that's not healthy because you're putting your control outside of yourself, and that you're never gonna have any agency if you're like, "I can't be safe or happy until the world, validates everything about me or until the world is safe," because the world's never gonna be a safe place.
And
So
I think you hit it on the head earlier because you were mentioning that you were struggling with a bit of self confidence and things like that. I think that's what a large part of this is that the generation that came up after ours, it was very much a participation ribbon generation, where like you get a trophy just for attending, and I think there was a lot less focus on trying to build up your confidence in yourself
right,
and teaching people that everyone else needs to change how they are to accommodate you.
right.
When the real world, like reality, is not like that and hasn't been like that,
And it never will be like
it
that,
never
like,
will be.
that's a pipe dream, we can't you can in your circles, you can definitely choose to surround yourself with people who are safe people, who validate you and everything like that, and that's great, that you should do that.
Hmm.
But if you think that you can go through life and nobody's ever gonna upset you, nobody's ever gonna offend you, nobody's ever gonna be a piece of shit to you, and you're gonna be completely dysregulated by it every time it happens, you're gonna be miserable because 'cause you're gonna be blown about by the wind. I didn't mean to interrupt you, I'm just, like,
No,
vehemently
that's a great
agreeing.
point. It's a great point. I think I had this conversation. I don't know if you know him or not, but Doug TenNapel, the creator of Earthworm Jim,
Oh,
he's a very controversial figure for some because he's a fundamentalist Christian with very traditional beliefs. Very strange that he would be talking or considering someone who's a trans person a friend, but here we are. But I've had great conversations with him, and the thing that I find that people dislike about him is that he's very staunch in his opinions. He doesn't like he is confident. He speaks to his opinions. He's respectful. He's like, you know what, that this is my opinion. I think you're wrong, but that's fine. You can go ahead and be wrong. People don't like that he's not willing to bend or he's not willing to shift, and then he argues his point. I think that's a lot of people get offended by, and a lot of people get intimidated by, is that confidence.
and it is weird because and I think there's a type of therapy I did a while back called dialectical behavioral therapy, and I think everybody needs to do it. It basically teaches you how to hold, like, 2 seemingly mutually exclusive or conflicting ideas at once and learn to sit in that anxiety, because that's why people don't like cognitive dissonance because it causes anxiety.
Exactly.
So we go black and white thinking, or we go, "No, you're with us or against us. You're a racist or you're this or you're that," and it's like, as opposed to being able to say, "Okay, I see the nuance of your argument, and I might not agree with it, but I also see your point." Being able to hold those things. So yeah, I think that's really interesting that he's able to yeah, to do that because it's a rare thing to be able to um I don't know, we just don't hold space for people because it's almost like we're trying to protect ourselves because 'cause we're all scared and we don't know what's happening, so then we go, "I
Hmm.
need to make sure everybody's safe, so if you even look remotely like something that might be something that looks like an ideology that I don't like, I'm gonna assume you're on the farthest side of it, and I'm gonna slap a label on you so I don't have to deal with it."
Yeah.
And that's not gonna
It's
happen. We're not gonna be able to converse.
like that dialogue, that back and forth, like I can disagree with you but still be friends with you. That's such an old school mentality now.
Yeah, my
Like,
my dad my dad was talking about in the '80s, they could go on, like, Capitol Hill and, like, like, senators or congressmen could, like, fight all day not court, in the room, whatever the big room is. Your brain cells are working really hard. Um, but and then afterwards, they go get a beer together.
mhm.
So, it's, it's just yeah, I miss those days. I don't know if we'll be able to get back to them. I think we can, though. I do think the silent majority is able to do that. They just aren't the ones talking, so we don't
Yeah.
think they're there.
Like, and people think that the imaginary people on Twitter are the majority, that the ones that are talking, but they're really not. They're just so intimidated by cardboard cutouts. It's
Yeah, like, when people say straw men, it literally a lot of these and also, like, a lot of these arguments, like, we're fighting fantasies. We're fighting I'll see conservatives say, "Liberals wanna do this." I'm like, "Well, I mean, some crazy people on the far left might, but most liberals don't want this and that. And then I'll see people say, "Well, conservatives want to kill all these people." I'm like, "No, that's not what." Like, I don't know, it's just bizarre, and we're not reading things, like, we've lost the art of primary sources. We're
Yes.
getting all of our information from the media or from people telling, so a lot of that's why I don't really like getting involved in internet drama, because it's
Hmm.
usually second or third hand information. I'm like, I'm not gonna make a decision or have a strong opinion about something, if I wasn't there.
Exactly.
I don't freaking know. So it's just like for me, I just am like, if there's a bill that you're like, "Oh, this bill it's horrible," like certain bills right now, read it. I read it the other day and I was like, "Oh, wow. That's very different than it's being portrayed on the media or by political pundits," because
Absolutely.
midterms are coming up, so, they
Yeah.
gotta rile people up, or the same on the other side. They're like, "Oh, these people are banning this book," and then you look up stuff and like, "Oh, they're not banning it. They're, removing it from this grade's curriculum, but it's still gonna be in the library," or, whatever. Like, there's always nuance. I am the queen of nuance. It annoys a lot of people in my life. They think I'm playing both sides, but I'm like, "No, because I can just hold 2 ideas at once and be like, this person might support somebody that you don't like, but they also could be right." Like, people you hate
Hmm.
can do good things sometimes or be right about things. Broken clocks right twice a day, and people you
Exactly.
like can be bad people. We're humans. We have multifaceted elements to us.
Exactly. And it sounds like, because like it sounds like from what you're saying, you've had a little bit of interest, at least some sort of interest in psychology.
Oh, yeah. I was a psych major. I was a theater and psych major, and then I dropped the psych major because I didn't wanna take the statistics class. I was, like, a senior. I literally had, like, 3 classes left. I think I had to do, like, a statistics class, and I had to do I think 2 labs, and I would have graduated with a double major. But I sat in the statistics class, and it was 3 hours long, and the teacher was so boring, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill myself." So I'm like, I'm like, "No, no, no, no," because I didn't wanna be a psychologist. I just liked psychology. I like the
Yes.
study of humans, and for me, that's what acting is. It's this I like them because they went hand in hand, because theater was like the practice of it, and psychology was the theory of humans. So, and why we do things, and, you know,
Absolutely.
why we act against our best interest and all that stuff. So it's definitely, that's why I have a hard time with the fact that a lot of acting, and I have a sketch kind of about it. It's my Oscar sketch, which I put out 2 days before the Chris Rock incident, and it literally was called, like, "Why no one watches the Oscars anymore." I'm like, "Well, that didn't age well." Um, but in it, I kind of make a joke about, she's accepting this speech, and she's like, "I played a poor once. I know what it's like to be you," and then she kind of goes on to lecture them, and it's like, I feel like I see that a lot in Hollywood, where we have these people with very strong opinions, and they're playing people that they kinda hate, and I just, to me, I'm like, "Look, you can disagree with your character's actions, but I feel like once you've played a character, you kind of should maybe empathize with them a little bit more and maybe not agree with them, but you understand why they are the way they are." And I see a lot of actors just being like, "No, fuck middle America, fuck these people, fuck people who vote like this," but then they'll, be happy to accept Oscars playing those people or making money playing those people, but then they're, like, judging them. I'm like, "Your job is to be an empathetic person and play different kinds of people, not just you."
Exactly. And step out of yourself and just be different. I mean, like Jim Carrey very much is a testament to that, right? He talks about it, about, depression being, it's like that you're tired of playing that person that you are currently. You're stuck in that depression, you're stuck in that. It's time for a change. It's time for you to realize that you have to step outside of yourself, or just give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. My goodness.
Did your audience expect this to get this, like, philosophical? I hear about anime.
we always go in so many different directions here. That's why I love leaving it unscripted, just because like I love the real talk. Like I don't like coming in here and being like, "Oh, so what's your favorite role? Like what's your
Right.
all
What
that
was it
stuff."
like being this character? Can you do the voice? Not that that's a problem, but it's just, I feel like there's so many videos of me doing that on the internet, it's probably not interesting for people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like they can get that anywhere. They can look on YouTube for that. I love just having like real talk conversations with people and getting to know the person, and just kind of having just a general chat, and letting people out there in the audience know that they're not crazy. They're like there's people like them out there as well.
That's kinda why I wanted to start, because, for a long time, I, like, never really posted political opinions online. I never really posted anything controversial. I'm just like, "Just keep your head down and, just keep doing your thing, and maybe everybody will like you." But the thing is, like, I don't want to be liked by everybody. I want to be authentic
Mhm.
and be liked by the people who like that. And I don't want to be hated, but at the same time, like if you hate me for having what I think are pretty reasonable or moderate opinions, then that seems like a you problem.
Exactly. And honestly, it really comes down to like it comes down to how much of a response you get, right? Because I mean,
Mm.
you can have the John Cena's of the world, who everyone's just cheering for and happy for, and waving your green towels or whatever. And then you have the other side of it as well. Like you have like the Alex Jones of the world, where
I would not have the skin to put up with what he's put up with, but at the same time, I also don't think I'd have most of the opinions he has, but he's entertaining that, like, he believes whatever he believes at 100%, and I can get behind that, even if I'm like, "Alex, maybe okay." Like
maybe step back from the ledge a little bit, Alex.
yeah,
Here,
I'm like, "Okay," but, it is weird. I have some friends who have, like, a joke where they're like, they put money into the Alex Jones was right jar, and I'm like 'cause I'm like, "Guys, I love a good conspiracy theory, but this is crazy," and then later they're like, "Hmm," I'm like,
yeah,
"Alright."
that
I'll admit when someone's right, but at the same time, there's stuff that he was very wrong about, but we're allowed to be wrong. We're allowed to
exactly.
believe what we believe and be wrong about it later. That's my problem with, like, people having differences of opinion where it's like, "Yo, like, I can" if I'm wrong about my opinion, the worst thing that happens is I'm wrong about my opinion, and then I can change it later and be like, "Yeah, I was wrong," That's but
And
I don't know.
there are so many people that are afraid to be wrong, and
Mhm.
it's just so wild. Like that's one thing I'm not afraid to be wrong. I mean, by all means, prove me wrong, because if I'm wrong, that means the world's a better place. Because I'm usually nihilistic about most things.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of stuff where I'm like, "You know what? I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but I would love to like, I would love to be proven wrong." So, yeah, I
Exactly.
I agree with that. I'm not fully nihilistic anymore. I used to be, because I grew up with a mom who was like, "Well, life sucks and then you die," but yeah, I do feel like I am excited when I'm wrong. It's weird. Like, that sounds a
Yeah.
little like, it turns me on. But no, like, I it means the world isn't boring because I get very bored very easily. I need a lot of stimulation. My brain's
Same.
always going, and so it's I'll hyperfixate on a subject and learn everything there is to know about it, like, whether it's like, "Oh, Austrian economics," or whatever. I'm like, "Okay, now I know everything there is to know, and everybody else is wrong." And then somebody will have a good argument, and I'll be like, "Oh, shit. Gotta go back to the drawing board." But it means I get something more to learn. Like, I love learning. If I could go back to school and just learn every subject and get paid to do it, I would, because I love languages. I love, I love all sorts of stuff. I love philosophy. Like, I would just love to learn because it's boring to think you know everything. I have friends who just will not take in new information. They go, "No, yeah, I'm right. My news sources are right. Everything I know is right, and the other side's wrong." I'm like, "But it's so much more interesting to like." I don't know. For me, it was like it started in like 2016, and I'm sure people are gonna be like, "Oh," they're gonna clip it and be like, "Oh, she's like a crazy Trump supporter." But it's like, no. When in 2016, I was living in LA, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, Trump got elected. That means half the country is a bunch of Klansmen, a bunch of racist, misogynist, horrible people, and they want us all dead." And I was like, "Wow." I don't understand then, because like, I called a couple of my dad's friends, because my dad's a unicorn. He's a black conservative, so, he wasn't really a fan of, like, the Trump thing, but he had friends who were. And so I called them, I'm like, "Hey, can I talk to you? Because I wanna, like, understand your perspective on this, because I'm being told that you're this, this, and this because of who you voted for, but I know that you love me, and I'm brown and a woman and all these things," and so it was causing me cognitive dissonance. So, like, I had some of the greatest conversations with them, and I didn't necessarily always agree with what they said, but I was kinda like, "You know what? I Yeah, those are all." None of the excuses, by the way, were, "I hate women," or "brown people," or "trans people." It was usually it was usually something like, "I want, someone who's tough on international trade with China because I feel like they're, dicking us over," or, "I want somebody who, whatever, isn't an establishment politician," or, whatever. Like, they have their reasons, and I have a sketch coming out at some point. I need to actually get people for it. Most of the stuff I've been doing by myself because I don't really have friends who wanna be seen doing this stuff.
Oh
Um,
no.
but, I wanna do one that's like a fake medicine ad where it's like, "Have you ever tried fucking talking to people?" And just showing that, like, a lot of times the news is trying to inflame you. So they're gonna give you the stupidest, craziest, most outrageous arguments from the other side that are meant to make you rage click or subscribe to
Absolutely.
them, and they're gonna tell you what you wanna hear. it's not going to sell as many papers to say like, hey, bill is passed that has some things that you might like, some things you might not like, and moderate, blah 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 blah. So talking to people who are smart on the other side, not people who are extremists, but people who actually understand policy or understand, whatever. Like my friend was explaining to me the other day how Obamacare actually made certain things harder. Like he's like, it helped with pre-existing conditions, but then it made it hard. Like there were certain regulations he was talking about where it makes it harder for individuals to band together to make their own little co-op, and
Hmm.
that would actually make it more. So basically, it was something like, and it might not have been Obamacare. It might have been something that pre-existed that. But he was saying Obamacare didn't fix it necessarily. And I
Right.
was interested because I didn't really understand a lot of that stuff. I didn't understand why he didn't like it. So
Hmm.
it was really interesting. He was able to really well articulate his points about like how government regulations made it so that like if you and I wanted to band together and make our own little insurance company to cover ourselves, we can't do that because you have to jump through all these hoops to have certain criteria to even be able to.
Right.
So it's like you would actually get more people who could have coverage if you would get less government regulations. And I was like, oh, well, that's not a racist answer, Whereas
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
was being told, oh, if you don't like Obamacare or you don't like, whatever, you don't like the government meddling and stuff, it's because you're a racist or it's because you hate poor people. And like, maybe some do, but I'm finding a lot of people when you talk to them are pretty reasonable, unless they get all their information from the news and then they're just NPCs.
That's so
Regurgitate
true.
talking points.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I've seen that on both sides, but I have seen it a lot more on I don't know, my former side. I don't know, because I still have certain views on both, but I used to be like, "Man, we were the cool ones. We were the punk rock ones. Now we gotta be the dorks."
Right? Oh my goodness. Now, I know we're coming up on an hour and I don't know how
Mm.
much time you have. I don't want to jeopardize
Be a little flexible.
your Friday here. But what I do want to ask just because before we cap things off here, because I'm not going to make this a super long show. I want to
Okay.
keep it digestible so that people can actually watch it.
And absorb all the wisdom we've been dropping.
Exactly. Everyone needs to hear the good word here.
The good word. Spread the news. I should make my own cult. I think I've got like a little magnetism going on. I could be like, "Hey guys," and I'll make it like, "Oh, we're all just friends and we're all reasonable," and then it'll be extremist. I'll bring them in with being like, "Hey guys, well, it's a safe place for you to be free to be you, unless you don't follow the word." And I'll
Exactly. Well, I
give
know
you a
there's
free helicopter ride.
a few people in the chat that have mentioned that you're pretty charismatic. So,
Oh, thank you.
well, what I will do,
That's
oh,
I'm
go
a
ahead.
serial killer. That's the thing. It's like, like that's what they always say, right? They're like, "Oh, he was so nice. He was such a charming person." So like next week you're gonna be like, "Wow, I never would have thought she had, 10, children buried in her, flower bed." And like that's how we do it. We ease you in. We were like charming and funny and all that stuff to cover up like the people back there. They're actively digging my. I outsource my grave digging. I'm too big.
I think I saw a couple of those import workers.
Yeah,
doing-
yeah, 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 and I don't pay them anything. I just, like, go to Home Depot, and I'm like, "Hey, here's some sandwiches and $3. Can you bury a body?" And they're like, "Alright."
So I had a few super chats here that I believe were addressing you. So I just wanted to read these off before we wrap things up here. From
Okay.
Kyle Cowden, Amanda, you said opposite sides of Florida, Homestead and Elgin.
Wait,
um,
opposite sides of Florida? What
uh,
was the second part?
Homestead and Elgin.
What's Algon?
I'm not sure. Kyle, if
Is
you're
it part of
still,
Florida?
it might be a part of Florida.
'Cause I was on Melbourne, Florida the first time we lived there, and then the second time I was in Tampa.
Okay.
I should probably know more Florida geography, but I just kinda when you live in a place, you kinda just know where you live, and then you're like, "I don't know, I guess that's in Florida." Um,
Dean Domino was saying, you talking about your comedies giving me flashbacks of all the Ryan Long sketches I've watched.
I love him because I although I sent my friend a sketch of his today. He didn't like it. Well, it wasn't a sketch, it was a sketch or it was like a when he goes to the man on the street things and he just talks to people and he, like, does this straight deadpan thing and he acts like he's serious, and so he went up to a bald guy and he's like, "Hey, as a Nazi, like, what's your favorite" whatever. He's like, "No, I don't believe in that stuff." He's like, "Yeah, I know, but I couldn't find any, so can you just be that?" And, like, the guy kept being like, "No, I'm not." He's like, "What's a Nazi's favorite food?" And he's like, I don't know what they would eat." And it's like my friend was like, "He's making that man feel uncomfortable for no reason." And I was like, "Oh, I thought it was funny." Clearly it's a joke, but
We have another last super chat here from Angel Legend. This is Eric Roland, actually. Eric Roland, the voice actor of Kendo Rappa from My Hero Academia.
wow.
Amanda, have you experienced career setbacks for speaking up online, and have you had any wins from being authentic?
I mean, the wins are just kind of having people see me for who I am, which is not something I've allowed people to do before. So that's been cool, and I'm making cool friends and stuff. And we're gonna go down to Florida next month, I think. So it's like that's kind of cool to have friends where I don't have to censor myself, and they understand. Like when I'm making a joke, they're not gonna be like, but I haven't experienced it yet. But I also feel like maybe it's coming. I don't know, but maybe it's not. Like maybe people are more reasonable than I give them credit for, because I was worried. I'm like, "Oh gosh." I think somebody tried to cancel me for a little bit, but it was like 3 people.
It was like 3 people, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
and I feel bad because I went to, my friend. I do not monitor Twitter stuff. I'm just like, "I don't wanna be involved, whatever." I just post and I leave. Like, "Slam bam, thank you, ma'am." But my friend was like, he said one of the people was autistic, and I feel kinda bad. I'm like, "Oh, well, they probably don't." I don't know. I feel bad that they got dunked on because I'm like, I don't
Aw.
know. I don't like people being bullied like that, but
Well, I
they
think part of what's going for you here is that you have a very good way of handling things. I think you're very well spoken. I think you're able to articulate very well in even under pressure. So I think keep that up. And
Thank you. Well, it helps having been, like I was saying with when you deal with certain types of people, not just in the cancel thing, but like even throughout life during my formative years, I had a lot of people in my life that I had to walk on eggshells with. So I do think I've gotten very good at being like, how do I say this in a way that's authentic, but also not going to, have them like, flip out on me. So I appreciate that's noticed. But yeah, to answer your question, so far it hasn't. Every time I go on a live stream though, I'm like, this is the last live stream I'm doing. I can't control the questions that get asked. I can't control all this stuff, and people are gonna clip it, and I can't control how it circulates. And what it was at Mark Twain where he says like the lie spreads around the world before the truth even gets its pants on or something.
yep, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Well, was there
So
anything that I didn't bring up that you really, really wanted to talk about?
I mean, I've got some cons coming up if people wanna say hi, I guess. I'm going to Metrotham Con in Chattanooga next in mid-May. I'm going
Wonderful
to
group of
Momo.
people running that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to MomoCon for one day on the 28th of May, and I'm going to ACON, which is in
Oh.
Texas, Irving, Texas, I believe. And then I have a signing this weekend, but it's kinda like last minute, but I'm doing a Streamily signing. It was supposed to be last weekend, but I'm very unorganized. So I'm like, "Can I have another week?" Um, so it was supposed to be a big Boruto event. But yeah, if you go to streamily.com/Amanda Miller, we have Boruto pops and all that stuff, and you can order them and I can sign them live. I think I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the signing on my TikTok this Sunday at 5. Although I've never done a TikTok live, and I also don't even know if anybody's still following me because I went on it like a year ago and I posted a video and it got like 500,000 views and I got like 39,000 followers in a day and I got overwhelmed and I just disappeared. I was like, I don't know. I'm really weird. I'll get gung ho about an idea and then I'm like, "Oh gosh, the reality of it's crashing down on me." And then I don't know. I was gonna do all these sketches and stuff, like Sailor Moon sketches and Boruto stuff, and I still wanna do it, but I just don't have enough time to do everything. So I'm focusing on my, like, comedy now where I'm learning how to express myself and be like every sketch, I'm like, "Oh, I'm putting my toe out there. Okay, I didn't get my toe bitten off," or if I do, like, I'm learning how to, like, be like, "This reflects on them, not on me." As long as I try to be an authentic person, I try to respect everybody, even if I don't agree with them,
Hmm.
and if somebody has a problem with that, then I can't really change that. I can't control other people.
Of
Get off
course.
get off my dick.
And we have one final super chat from Dean Domino 25. If you're gonna start a cult, you should go full bore at the start. Everyone does the slow start thing. I'm enjoying the one Ricada is starting with the unbreaded gospel of Matthew Harris.
What was that? I saw the clip of he's like, "Brit." What was he on drugs?
I still haven't figured out what that is.
Because I saw the clip without any context. I'm like, I'm sure there's gotta be context, but like, Brit? I'm like, "What's
Touchdown
happening?"
on paper, unbreaded.
And watch it actually be like a genius thing where like in 5 years he was just prophetic and he was having like a spiritual download and we all laughed at him and it's like, that's what happens to all the prophets.
Oh
But
my
I should
goodness.
start it. I should start my cult. You know what? You're right. Don't ease people in. Just be like, it's the cult of authenticity. So I'm like, hey guys, I'm gonna make you all have sex with me. That's what cult leaders do, right? Except you, Dave. I don't no, thank you. Like, Dave got his robe. He's like, oh,
Aw,
like he was the one guy who was excited to be like my bitch, and I'm like, no,
poor
you're good.
Dave.
Yeah,
Poor
you can be
Dave.
the guy who like pours everybody's food in the mess hall or something. I don't know. You can light our bonfires. I just stay away from me, Dave.
Oh my goodness. Well, Amanda's got a few conventions coming up that you guys can check her out at. I'm sure you announced them on your Twitter, which is displayed
Yes.
currently. I have your
Twitter.
links in the chat in the video description, so people can find your website. They can find your Twitter, and your YouTube. Check out her stuff. She's very, very funny.
Thank you.
Very authentic, and someone that definitely deserves more of a following, I think.
I appreciate that. It's kind of nice though to build up slowly because I realized, as much as people want to go viral and like when I got the like almost 40K followers in a day, I'm like, they're all gonna want something from me. Cause like people were like, why aren't you answering my comments? I'm like, there's 1,000 comments. I don't so it's kind of nice to like slowly like and also I can test out content and be like, oh, they don't like that. Oh, well, actually I don't care. Like I'm gonna put out what I'm gonna put out, and if they don't like it, they can unfollow. That's kind of my again freedom of association.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you again for stopping by on the show today. I know, guys, this is a bit of a shorter show, but again, I want to keep this nice and digestible so everybody can tune in and hear this wonderful, talented Amanda and everything that we've had to talk about today, because it's very important, I think. But
You.
if you have a few moments, Amanda, if you could stick around after the show,
Post-show.
that'd be awesome. We can just wrap things up, and I won't take up too much more of your time, I promise.
No, this has been cool. Thank you for having me on, and yeah, sorry. Although I haven't been able to see you because I think you said it was on the YouTube thing, so I'm just talking to like the disembodied voice of God.
Exactly. It's
The voice
okay.
of problem.
I'll turn my camera on in just a few moments here, but it'll be behind the scenes, so that unrobing will happen privately. Don't worry.
You'll be like Dave. You'll be like, no problem, not you either.
Well, thank you again for joining, and everybody out there, thank you guys for watching. This has been another wonderful Canuckleheads, and until next time, folks, keep your stick on the ice.